You're our friends, our neighbours, you've enriched our country, and we want you to stay. And that's why we've set up the European Settlement Scheme, to make it free, to get the long-term status that's needed, and to record the fact that people are here exercising their freedom of movement rights. The deadline for the application of the European Settlement Scheme is the 30th of June 2021, although we've been clear we'll also accept late applications where there's reasonable grounds for doing so. We've made 3.3 million grants of status so far, and there's been 900 refusals, virtually all on the grounds of criminality, or where there's no evidence of, and it's a fairly low evidential threshold of actually proving you live in the United Kingdom and you're using your freedom of movement rights, which is what we seek to protect. Where people might struggle, we've funded 57 organisations with £9 million over the last year to help support those who may be more vulnerable make an application, and we're doing another £8 million over the next year. And there are a range of support packages available, which can include supporting people with a paper application, although we find most people, particularly French nationals, will find it a lot easier to use the app with the chip checker and quickly do an application from home for the status they need. And we do check government records as well. So, for example, if people are paying national insurance, that will be checked to see them being here in the UK. So we're looking to be flexible and to help people secure the status they need. And we've been clear, if people do miss the deadline for reasonable reasons and they can evidence their status, then we'll consider a late application. That will also be free of charge. Once we get beyond the grace period next year, if people, for example, are taking on new employment or are looking to rent some more, or for example, need to access the welfare system, as many French nationals touch, they will need to show their European Settlement Scheme status to be able to do that, rather than just show they've got a national insurance number. However, in terms of an application to the European Settlement Scheme, then things like having a national insurance number and a record of contributions are perfect evidence for making an application. It depends on individual circumstances. So, for example, if someone's just got an NI number, that may not be enough. But if, for example, they've got a record of contributions that show they're exercising their free movement rights, and that doesn't need to be a lengthy length of time of contributions at all. It can be very, very short. For example, evidence of being resident in the United Kingdom. Again, those things are enough evidence. And as I say, the evidence is very clear. We've had 3.6 million applications, 3.3 million grants, and 900 refusals by the last set of statistics. So to put this into perspective, the numbers getting granted and the percentage getting granted is very, very significant. And the teams in the Home Office will work with applicants if there's a piece missing or a piece of evidence that we could do with being supplied. And having seen the teams in action, they'll accept things like a letter from HMRC about your tax affairs, those sorts of things. We look to get to work to secure someone's status, and it's only where there's no evidence of someone living in the UK, or, for example, there is criminal convictions, the same way, for example, a UK national in France who committed serious offences, we would understandably expect that the French government would look to remove them. What we're looking at is hopefully having a broad agreement with the European Union to facilitate a range of business movement alongside our wider global migration system, and also looking at things like having a youth mobility scheme where we have already with 8 territories, for example, Australia and Canada are 2 of them, where those under 30 can come here for a couple of years. And we hope to have a reciprocal arrangement with the whole EU on that front. But if not, then where best could we start than getting many of those talented French people who would love to come to the UK and spend a year or two, perhaps either spend a year or 2 here working and others. So our goal with youth mobility would be to get an agreement with the whole European Union. But if not, we'll talk with other nations bilaterally, and France will be very high up that list. First, since 2008, the UK's migration system hasn't had a direct route for au pairs, and we won't have that in the new system. However, we're hopeful of getting an agreement for youth mobility with the European Union it is a reciprocal arrangement we have with the other countries that we currently have it with. But as I say, if we can't get it with the EU, we would look to try and negotiate individually with countries, including France. And under a youth mobility scheme, you're not restricted to what work you do in the UK once you're here. Well, the message we'd like to send to the community is, you're our friends, you're our neighbours, we want you to stay. We've set up this scheme so it's free of charge to ensure that for the rest of your time, you've got exactly the proof you need of your rights. And that's why we've made this simple, effective, free of charge. And my message to the community would be, if you're thinking about making an application, make it today. And we look forward to welcoming and you continuing to enrich our community for years to come.